Hello and welcome to our tutorial. So in this tutorial we're going to have we're doing a couple of things. So we're going to continue on with our VR work. So this is just a little scene I've made in Blender. So it's basically one building, and I've made a slightly shorter version of it and then just duplicated it on some very low poly trees, and that's what the camera sees. And we kind of pushed through into an opening, and so that's sort of our scene. So this is for VR, so we're going to bring this scene in and get it working in Unity. But I've rendered it out, so the first thing we're going to do is have a look at that process of rendering it out. So we can see where the camera is here, so it's in the middle of this little street. So if I just select my camera here, so that's it there, and if I just go back here, you can see, so the camera just runs down the road. That's the entirety of the animation. So this is the Eevee game engine. So when I click on the camera here, I have panoramic, and then that's it. I have no other options. So if I press F12, I get this here, which is what the camera sees. However, if I fly over here to cycles, now obviously I've got issues with sampling, and you can see I've got my samples turned really low, and there's no textures, and there's only one light, etc. But so in cycles here, if I go to my camera settings and I pick panoramic, I have all sorts of options that aren't available in the Eevee game engine. So equi rectangular is the one I want. When I look through the camera, I get something entirely different. So this is what it will look like when I render it out, and this will effectively be sort of my cutscene in my VR game. So I'm just going to save that and then close Blender, and then let me show you. One second. So here's my desktop, and then oh, that's not it. Tutor, that's it there. So this is sort of a frame, and I can cycle through the frames. You can see it moving there as I just literally press the arrow keys. So this is an image sequence, or PNG image sequence. Now it's extraordinarily noisy, but that was just out of the need to get 250 of them out in a short amount of time. So I can up the sample rate and do all sorts of other things to make that a more beautiful render in the future. So here in Adobe Premiere, if you just make a generic kind of new project, I've made a timeline by going our new sequence. The sequence I want is 1080 24, and the reason I'm doing that is because that's what I rendered out of Blender. There's no fields, it's progressive scan, and it's all fairly straightforward, and I've called it flyby. And now I'm going to import, if I go to my desktop here and go to tutor, you can see that I've got all of these individual images. I don't want them, I want to select one and then turn this on here, image sequence. So then Premiere knows then that this is not 100 or 250 individual files, it's one video file. So import that, and it comes in as a single item. I can drag and drop that onto my desktop. Do I want to change? I'll change the settings to match the video, but they should be the same. Oh, it's interesting, it's changed the flyby to be 25 frames a second rather than 24. So now it's, instead of it being exactly 10 seconds, we've got 924. Anyway, we won't worry about that too much. So we can zoom in here a little bit on the timeline, and then that's it playing here in Premiere. So I want to export this now as a video file, and so I'm going to go File, Export Media, and there's a whole host of options here, but what I want is an MPEG-4 with a H.264 compressor. That's what will play in Unity. There are an awful lot of options here, but that's the one you should select. So you want an MPEG-4 and with a H.264 extension on it. So it's called Flyby, and we'll call it, let's rename this a little bit, we'll call it VR Intro Flyby. I'm going to hit save, and then I'm just going to hit export. Now there's audio options here, we've no audio, but we won't worry about that, we just want the video out. So press export, and so shortly I'll launch my Unity project, and the first thing we're going to do is import this into Unity, and then we'll look at importing the assets from Blender in, the different houses and the trees, etc., and see what we can come up with in Unity. So we're not really worried about making it beautiful. It's kind of like just a white box sort of setup, and we'll get a couple of interactive kind of gaze input stuff working in Unity as well. So I'm not going to launch Unity, or I will extend this render time. It's not the fastest machine in the world. And you can probably hear my hard drive, old-fashioned hard drives, all churning as this exports. Okay, so nearly there. So once that's out, I'm going to close Premiere and then get stuck into getting this sort of the different bits into Unity. Okay, so we'll save that, and then we'll exit, and we can close that, and we will go to our Unity hub. So it should be, I should have, I think, 2019.2 here. So let's just bring this over here. So 2019.2. So I'm going to go to this one. This is where we kind of left off last time. So VR intro. Now this is loading on my second screen, so I'll drag it across in a second. As soon as I can. Like I said, so the first thing we'll set up is our video. We already brought in a sphere in the last tutorial. We created a sphere in Blender. We inverted the normals on it so that we could put an image on the inside. So we're going to just basically build on that, only this time we'll be adding a video onto the sphere. We'll get that to play when we launch the game. And then after a set amount of time, we can get it to switch to a new level, and then we'll build that level. Okay, so nearly there on my slow computer. There we go. So I can, right, so what we had last time was we had made our sphere here, and we'd added this material to it, which is fine. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go add component, video player. This is our video player here. We don't have a video clip, so let's create a couple of folders here. So I'll make a folder called video, and I'll want a folder for scripts, and we'll put one for, make one for textures as well, and materials. So we'll put this in there, and then we also will create one more, and we'll call this blend files. So I'll take our sphere and we'll put that in there, just a bit of housekeeping. And then in our video folder here, we'll right click and we'll go import new asset. And we will go to our desktop and our folder called tutor. We have all these individual ones, but hopefully down the end we've got this one here, import. And we can see that immediately Unity recognizes it as a piece of video. And so if you have the incorrect format, if it's an .4v or some other kind of file format, this will come up as a kind of an unrecognized object. So now on my sphere, it's asking me what video do I want, and that's the video I want there. It says play on awake, which is what we want. Wait for first frame. We could have it loop, so I'll turn on loop, but we'll probably say when it's finished playing, move on to the next scene. So we'll just press play and see what we get. So we got a flash there of our previous material, so we probably replace that just with something black. And now you can see that so this is looping, so I'll have a look around. So I'm holding on the Alt key and moving the mouse, and that sort of emulates the what the player with the VR goggles will see. And although it looks like we're obviously immersed in a 3D environment, this is just a piece of video playing on the sphere. But it's very effective and looks very three-dimensional. So all we want to do now is time that, so that after a set amount of time we transition from this scene, which is our cut scene, into the next scene, which will be our playable level. So I'll just pause that there. Okay, so we'll have a look here at our sphere, and we will see if we can just make that completely black. And then when we press play, if we do get a kind of single frame of oh, I seem to have undone myself here, so that won't work. So I have to be able to see the actual material. So what we'll do is we'll how do I remove that? Let's just reset. There we go. Now and I think I'll have the same effect. I think I'll have no video, will I? Yeah. So I need to be able to see my surface. Anyway, we'll make this white. We'll come back and fix that again. That was just a quick attempt to fix a problem. Anyway, so that's our video there playing away. So what we want is a script that basically says, you know, when we're finished playing this cutscene, move on to the next scene. And we also haven't named this scene, so let's go file. Actually no, we won't do that. We'll just go rename it. So we've already got scenes over here, so this is our sample scene. So we'll save it and we'll rename it. We'll call it VR intro video. Okay, so that's now our first scene. So we want another scene, so we're going to go create scene. With this new scene, we're going to call it so VR level 1. Now we'll probably have a main menu, but we'll get to how to do main menus in VR in a future tutorial. So I'm going to go to this here. So here I am in my new level. And then I'm going to jump back here. So what we want is after a set amount of time has passed, we want to be able to jump into or transition from one scene to the other. So I'm just going to open Visual Studio here and open a script that will let us do that. So let's have a quick look at it and then we'll put it in to our game. Any moment now. You would not think I had lots of RAM in this machine. I have loads of RAM, 32 gig of RAM. So So that's it there. So at the start it says start coroutine, cutscene. So we're going to play our cutscene, and it says wait for seconds 8. So we were going to wait for seconds 10, and then we wanted to load a scene called VR level 1 with a capital L. So VR level 1. So we'll save that. Okay. Now that script is not in here, so I was going to minimize this here. I'm going to drag and drop it in. That's it there. And I'm going to copy that into my scripts folder. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to close it in here and then reopen it, because I had it opened from another folder. So it won't be kind of dynamically linked into Visual Studio. And there we go. So let me close that. And not now. Okay. So, and it's saved, so that's all good. So that's going to work. So we're going to take that and drag and drop it onto, we'll put it onto our sphere, because that's what it's going to work on. Now what we probably should do, actually let's do this just for good practice. So we'll add in an empty. The empty's at 0, 0, 0, and we'll call it level controller. And we'll actually put the script onto that. We'll remove that from here. Okay. So now before this will work, we have to actually go into the build settings, and we have to add our scenes, so it knows which ones are available to change to, etc. Okay, so we will close that and we'll press play, and what should happen without clicking on anything or doing anything, it should just play this here. So I can look down the corridor, and after 10 seconds it should transition to the next level, which it has done. Excellent. So that's working. So next we want to bring in some blend files in here and make a small VR level. Now we're not going to traverse the level particularly, we're just going to be static and look around and have some gaze input interaction. And then we'll look at in our next tutorial using Bluetooth input to move around, which is very straightforward, and have a look at some other sort of kind of properties of kind of interactive properties in VR. So I'm going up to my blend files here, and I'm going to import new asset. I'm going to my desktop, and let's see, Tudor House. This is what I was working on before in Blender. So let's just, we've closed that, so let's open that up. I'm actually going to go back over here. I'm going to cancel that import. So I'm just going to bring my Blender over here and open that. So this is my the current setup. So I'm going to take this object here, which is a tree, and I'm going to go File, Export, FBX, and I'm going to export just the selected object, and I want to go to my desktop, and then on my desktop I'm going to my VR intro, and then into my assets, and we had made blend files as a folder. So Tudor House one, so we don't want to call it that, we want to call it tree one, and we'll export that. Then we'll take this one here and we'll go File, Export, FBX, and again we only want the selected object, and we'll call this house one, and export our FBX. And then we'll take this guy here, who's just, you know, a modified version of first, but it'll break up the repeat. So FBX, and we'll call this very simply house number 2, and we'll export that, and then we'll close Blender, and we won't save anything because we haven't made any changes. But over here we should have our objects. So let's have a look at setting this up. So I've got my directional light and my camera. Now I'm going to create this little camera rig. So it's 0, 0, 0. I'm going to call this cam rig, and then drop my main camera in here. Now the reason we do that is if we don't, when we run the Google VR scripts here, it'll take a camera that's kind of not attached to anything and it'll place it basically at 0 on Y. So it'll basically be in the ground or like on the horizon. So this putting the camera as a child of the empty allows us to place the camera anywhere we want. So there's my camera. So I'll bring that to 0, 0 and 0 as well. And there's my camera rig. Okay. Now I want a ground. So let's do that. So let's create a plane and we'll call it ground. And that's what we will have as our ground. And we'll take our camera rig here and we'll lift it up, say, I don't know, 2 units on Y. I'm going to take this and I'm going to scale it up, say, 5. And we'll leave it like that. So we've got a decent size area to play with. I'm going to take in house 1. Again, we're not really worried about making this the most beautiful environment in the world. We're just trying to set it up so that it's somewhere for us to walk around. So we're going to try and make a little kind of courtyard here that we can look around. So and of course we will look through sort of the gaps between them and destroy the illusion, but so be it. One more in, that guy there. And then we'll throw that guy in there. And that guy there. Okay. Now, I assume, because the origin of all of these objects is at their base, they should all be sort of sitting on the ground. So that's roughly our scene. You know, simple enough little kind of town. Now there's probably far too much geometry here to actually be doing this, particularly in VR, but we'll just leave it for now. And we'll try and optimize it a bit when we're exporting. So these are all our objects. I'm just gonna, just for tidiness sake, take all of these and make them the child of that guy, just so I can have a tidy hierarchy. So we need to, as we did in the previous scene, we need to put in sort of our Google VR components to make this work. So we have to go to the prefabs, and we need, for the camera, for the reticule to work, we need to put that here, and then we need to put in this here and that there. Okay, so and then on the camera, if you remember, we did a physics GVR physics raycaster. We had to add that on as well to get it to work. So now when I press play, you can see I've got my white dot. Okay, so that's working in terms of it's emulating a VR headset. Now it's not giving a stereoscopic view, but that's fine. Now what we just for to make things a little easier, we're just going to add in one more light. So I'll add in a point light, and just so we can see what's going on. Okay, that one was probably a bit too much. We'll press play, and we can look around. Yeah, that looks a bit odd, but we'll make it kind of an orangey light so that it's maybe coming from somewhere. Okay, so that's just so we can look around and see what we're doing. So I'm going to pick, I'm going to make one or two objects and then try and interact with them using that kind of pointer, that reticule, just to see how easy it is, how it works. So from top view here, I'm just going to add in a 3D cube. So there's my cube. So that's it there. Maybe we'll make it a wee bit smaller. So let's say 0.3, 0.3. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to look at this cube and then be able to sort of interact with it when I look at it. So when I press play at the moment, and I hold down the Alt key, when I put the reticule over the cube, nothing happens. So the cube has no, you know, I'm not interacting with it. So to get it to work, to get it to interact, very simply, all I need to do is I need to add an event trigger, and I'm gonna, well, we'll have a look at this in a minute. So let's press play now and see what we get. Now we have nothing, and so we'll add a new event type, and we'll say pointer enter, and our list is empty, so we can run something here when we enter, but we don't need to stipulate what that is now. So what I should see here is I should see my my pointer changing shape. So let me have a quick look at why that's not working. Okay, so we'll just have a look here what we've got and why it's not working. So let's try it one more time. I think I know what's wrong. So that's not working. So I think so I've added in this controller main, and I should have added in the event system is what I should have added in. So let's press play now, and there we go. So the reticule will change shape and interact with, or kind of show you the objects that it's interacting with. So we can actually, I think, get rid of that. So what all we need now is to sort of, if we look at this cube, so we can see here that like when we enter, we can run a command. We can tell it to do something, and in the same way, if we look at this, we can say when I'm so I can, that's pointer enter. I can do pointer exit. So when I look away from something, pointer down, pointer up, and pointer click. So these are all really simple and kind of powerful little tools to use. So if we have a Bluetooth input device and we assign button A is like fire 1, we can say if I'm looking at this and I press fire, then do something like open a door or fire a gun or play an animation, etc. So it's all actually, so Unity have done a lot of the hard work for us here. So what we'll do is we're just going to do two things. We're going to change the color of this cube. So in order to do that, I'm just going to make a little material for it. So I have materials here. So I'll say create material, and we'll call this, I don't know, red, and we'll make it red. And then we'll drag and drop that onto the cube. So because we are going to, if I'm going to change the color, I need a color to change. Okay, and so we're just going to create a script. So C# script, and we'll call this So L1 for level 1, and so gaze color change. Okay, so I'm going to double click on this, and here we are in I was going to say MonoDevelop. Here we are in Visual Studio. So what I want is, I don't need any of these. I'm just going to make my own script here. So I need it to be public. If I don't have a public void, I won't be able to see it when in the drag down menus in Unity. And we'll say, I know, blue. And so, I am missing some brackets. Okay. So we basically want to change the render or the color to blue. So we're going to say, get component, and then we want to, it's the renderer that we're looking for. So get component renderer, and then we want to change the material dot color. American color, and then we need to tell it what it's equal to, and we need to, so we're going to say it's color dot blue. Done. And I can copy that, and down here I can go Control V. I'll call this, I don't know, black. And this can be black, and we'll do one more. Actually, I didn't even need to copy that. Just paste it again, and we'll say red, and make that red. There we go. And we'll just save that. Probably won't use the black one, but we'll. Okay, so what we'll do over here, we'll go to our cube, and we'll call this, I don't know, call it test look. Okay, so at the moment it's red, and what we want to do is we want to take this this script here. So I'm going to take that and drag and drop it onto my object. So I need to tell it where the script is. So the script is on it. And what function are we looking for? We're looking for that script, and we're going to say blue. So when I look at it, turn blue. Now its default color is red, so I'm going to say, oh no, that's not what I want to do. I want to add another event, and the other event is going to be pointer exit. So when I look away, turn it back to red again. And red. So I'm going to press play, and we're looking around. So when I look at this, it turns blue, and then when I look away, it turns red again. And that is gaze input. Now we'll be looking at more sort of advanced versions of this, where you know, you'll have a timer and maybe something that spins around the reticule. So you have to look at something for a number of seconds before the event occurs. Etc. So we'll look at how to do all that. It's not very difficult, but that is, you know, so this is set up to be VR, and we have our first sort of interactive gaze input from VR. So let's just save this scene, and we'll go back to our original. Save. Wrong one, that one. So if we were running our game, we would get, initially we would get this. So we would motor along here in our video, looking around, and then we'd be transported to here with our blue sky, and then if we look at our cube, we can change its color. Okay, so that's it for now, which is enough. And I was going to do one more thing before I finish, which is when we look at the video, we're looking at the side of it. So I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees. And now when we press play, we're looking backwards, which is not what I want. So I want to do it that way. So I press play, and now just when the game starts, we will be looking forward. We can still look around, but our initial perspective will be down this corridor or down this alleyway. Okay. So let's press save, and we will leave it there for now.